Hello, everybody. It's Tim here again. Here another movie review. This time for Valentine from 2001. This film was directed by Jamie Blanks, who also directed Urban Legend. Now, Urban Legend is a film that I haven't seen in a long, long time. I remember thinking it was just kind of okay. My problem with that one is I felt like the plot idea of somebody killing people with urban legends had more potential than the movie actually used. And I also wasn't a fan of like the whole meta aspect of the movie. Like Scream knockoff films, I'm not a huge fan of. This film has a little bit of that Scream type stuff in it, but mostly it is just a standard slasher movie. Um, I want to give Urban Legends another shot though. I want to watch it again sometime. But yeah, this film was mostly just a standard slasher movie, which I'm fine with. I'll go ahead and say it. This film got bad critic reviews when it came out, which is nothing surprising. Most horror movies do get bad critic reviews, especially slasher films. And it has an extremely low like IMDb score of just like 4.2 or something like that, or 3. This film is nowhere near that bad. It is extremely basic story. It is a slasher film. It is a straight up slasher film. Could have come out in the 80s easily, but this is not a bad movie for a slasher film. You go into a slasher film, I don't know why you expect high art. It's not like slasher films can't be have really interesting plots and stuff like that. They can, but at the same time, the majority of slasher films are just basic fun, and that's why most horror fans like them. This film is pretty much just a basic revenge tale. You got a bunch of kids, a bunch of girls, including some boys, who like mistreat and abuse this nerdy type kid or whatever way back in the early '90s, and he gets picked on, and he asks this fat girl to dance. Or girl's supposed to be fat, but she's really not. Asks her to dance, and she dances with him, and she's like making out with him. And then when the guys come over there, she claims that he just attacked her, even though he really didn't. But she's just ashamed to be seen with him, is what it is, even though she really does actually have a crush on him. So then the guys like beat the hell out of him. So we skip years later to like 2001. Somebody's back wearing like a Cupid type mask, whatever you call it, like a Valentine's Day Cupid type mask, cherub, I think maybe the word, something like that. And he's like going around actually killing them. And you got a lot of notable actors here, like Katherine Heigl, who I've heard is a huge douche in real life. Like a lot of directors that work with her say she's really terrible. Um, but she gets killed in the opening, and you actually think she's going to be the main character. But it's a pretty cool switcheroo here, because I was wondering too when I saw this recently for the first time in years. I was like, "Oh, is she the main character?" Because I couldn't remember anything about this movie. But no, and she shows up and she's on the screen for a all right amount, and then she's like working in the morgue, and she like is getting ready to cut into his body, and it starts breathing. And of course, it's the killer, and the other actual dead body is hidden in the closet. Falls out. She takes off running. He's coming after her. The mask. I wasn't sure how I felt about it, but I kind of liked it in the end. It works for a Valentine's Day themed horror film. He makes it into the morgue part where all the bodies are like zipped up and bagged, and he starts stabbing them all and gets to the last one. That's where she's at. He unzips it, takes her out, and slits her throat in a pretty cool kill scene. Some of the other kill scenes in this are a little weaker. Not really bad, but just a little weaker because they're not as gory as they should be. Because from what I've heard, both the studio and the MPAA like cut this film down, and Warner Brothers owns the rights to this, I believe, and they refused to release the unrated cut. I have no idea why. Scream Factory released a really cool Blu-ray of this, and if you can get your hands on it, I suggest you do. It's pretty cheap on Amazon. I'm gonna pick it up myself. Um, but yeah, he starts taking them out one by one. You got Denise Richards, who's like the super hot one of the group, and you got this other guy. I believe her name is, I mean not other guy, but other girl, who's like the most sympathetic one of the group. Who like when the guy asked her to dance when they were younger, she pretty much just said maybe later. So she's the only one that wasn't like really rude and abusive towards him, even though you kind of got the idea that she just kind of said that to get him away. But at the same time, no, she wasn't mean spirited as the others, and they try to add a little bit of gray to the characters. Not so much gray, but they try to actually develop them. Like the characters, some of them do feel bad about how they treated the boy when he was younger, but at the same time, though, they're still making fun of him when they're older. So they're still really not good people, but they try to add a little bit of dimension to them. And that's one of the things I've heard some people have a problem with, is like these characters are mostly unlikable, so why do we care what happens to them? To me, that's the whole point of the movie. It's a revenge tale, basically. You're rooting for the killer, and the majority of horror fans, from what I know, root for the killer 99% of the time in slasher flicks. So they just make it overt here. I had no problem rooting for the killer in this movie, to kill all these women. They're all bitches, and pretty much all of them, except for Marley Shelton's character. I believe that's the actress' name. She played Judy Hicks in Scream 4, and she was also in Planet Terror. She's really hot. And Janice Richards' character gets killed in the pool, where she gets holes drilled into the top of it, or whatever. It's got this glass thing over top of it. and she gets holes drilled into it by a power drill, and then he opens it up and throws the drill in her and electrocutes her. And pretty much is what's funny is at the beginning of the movie, her younger self, who they found a little girl like almost identical to Denise Richards. I mean, she looks super close. Where she tells him that she'd rather be boiled alive, than dance with him, which is ironic. She gets boiled alive or shocked alive, whatever. You got a cop in here who like gets his head cut off. You don't see it; it's off screen, but I thought it was pretty cool seeing his floating head in the water. David Boreanaz is in this film, the guy from Angel. Now he's kind of a hit or miss actor. He was really bad in Crow Wicked Prayer, but I think he does good TV work in Bones and the Angel show. I actually got the whole box set of Angel. Got it really cheap at just like a yard, not a yard sale, but like a thrift store or something. And he's in the movie. His acting is fine up until the end, where he's supposed to be like the suspicious one for a little bit. It does kind of get a little B movie ish with some of his acting, but by the end, he's totally fine in the role. The last friend who was used to be fat or supposedly fat, even though the little girl really wasn't, is now older and still a member of the group. One thing I will say is like the Marley Shelton type character, like she is not really like an asshole like the rest. So it does seem kind of weird, like she's even friends with these girls. Like the rest of them are so scummy. But yeah, there are people in real life who have friends like that still and still stay friends with them. It just seems weird though that she would really care about hanging out with these people because of the way they act. And another thing is Denise Richards' character is supposed to be the super slut who they keep saying bangs anything, but every time in the movie when a guy hits on her and they want to do her, she like always turns him down. So that was kind of weird. You probably could have showed some boobs in this, but but you get to the ending and the supposed like there's like two girls left on. I think the character's name is Kate, the one who is Marley Shelton's character, and you got the other girl who used to be the supposed fat girl, and she disappears, and like the killer pops out and falls down the stairs with the main Kate girl or character, and the killer gets back up and gets shot down by David Boreanaz. He comes down there and is like holding her or whatever, and she tells him she loves him because they're like pretty much like an on and off boyfriend girlfriend in this movie because he has a drinking problem, and by the end they've pretty much mended the relationship because he saved her from the supposed killer. But you know anything about horror movies, you know where this is going, and he's like holding her and his nose starts bleeding, which is supposed to signify to you that he's really the killer, which it is kind of predictable he is the killer in the movie. When it gets to the end, you pretty much do know that he's probably the killer and something's going on here. But I like the ending of it though, of how he like embraces her and he's like holding her. Sorry about that, I had to cough. But yeah, it's pretty poetic that he, ended up with the girl that was the only one that didn't abusively insult him when he was younger. One other thing though is the guys in the movie who at the beginning like beat him up when he was a little kid, who are like picking on him. He never kills those people. That was kind of a mistake, but at the same time though, I didn't really notice it when I was watching the movie. I heard that was in an original draft that they were going to actually show that he had killed them before he ever started targeting the girls. I suppose they probably took that out in case this did really well. They could do a sequel where he went after the men and just killed all them. But yeah, all in all, I'd give this a 3.5 out of 4. Pretty good slasher flick. It is a basic slasher movie, and you really root for the killer in the movie. I have no problem with that. It's a fictional movie. I'll be more than happy to root for the killer. I don't care. But yeah, it's pretty good. I don't really see anything too bad with the movie. It does drag a little bit, and some of the kills could have been a little more gory. But overall, I was fine with this one. Pretty good. I want to pick it up on Blu-ray. I'm surprised it didn't do that well when it came out. But slasher films, other than like Scream and maybe one or two others that did well, like coming off the success of Scream and just the Scream series in general, really didn't do that well. But overall, though, pretty good. I didn't mind it. Had no big huge problems with it. It's totally fine. Pretty good standard slasher flick. If you like slasher flicks and you just want to watch one for fun, this is perfectly enjoyable. And I'll go ahead and be honest. I'd rather watch this than the new Candyman reboot, which I thought sucked. The new Candyman soft reboot sequel, I thought it sucked. And the difference between the two is even though that one aims higher by trying to have social commentary and all that, that's fine. But if you're going to aim higher with higher goals, I expect more of you. And so that one was a big waste of time. This one is just more basic, which at the same time is fine because if you can be entertaining, that can make up for some of your script problems. If you're trying to aim higher, you really need the writing to get there, and that Candyman movie didn't have it. This is much more easily entertaining watch than that. So, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you again.